I'll just be taking us through some of the TM1 stuff today. Just by a show of hands, is there anyone here that is not an existing TM1 user, or your company that you work at doesn't use TM1? Okay, so everyone here is familiar. I know most of your faces. So maybe just quickly, just to give you some perspective of what it is that we're going to be covering today. What we've done is we've looked at our client base and we've looked at the different areas that the majority of our clients have not implemented within the technology's capabilities. And so today we're focusing primarily in the presentation part on those new areas. Some of those areas are new to me as well, so there's a small chance I might break something while running through the presentation, in which case I'll try and fix it as we go along, but we'll see how it goes. And then the idea is that during this time it's an open session, so if you've got a question or a clarity around something that you're seeing, then please just stick your hand up, interrupt me. It's not a canned presentation beginning to end, we can chat through it. And then if there's time at the end and your questions aren't related to what I've shown but it is related to something else, then please just ask that question. I'll do my best to answer it as well. And then once I finish that, then I'll hand over to Lorraine, who's our sales director, who's just going to talk through the licensing capabilities and what the different licenses mean, and also talk a little bit around the new version that came out last year with some new capabilities and implications of that. So that's kind of the hope for today, and so I'm going to just hop straight into it. So the Joburg presentation of this, I believe, we're in 15 minutes. I've been told to try and make it longer. So I think I'm safe. I'm a bit slow. That was a lady, so she went really fast. Guys are a bit slow, so I'll go slower. So really, multitasking. Yeah, I can't multitask. Much to Lorraine's excitement. So this is the stuff that we're going to cover today. So TM1 Web, Workflow, Cognos Insights, Cafe, Scorecarding, and then IFRS using another finance technology within the IBM suite, although it does cross over to BI as well. So that's what I'm going to be covering through today, and in the main, like I say, certainly from Cape Town, with the exception of Metropolitan, I'm not sure if anyone's using any of these features on the TM1 side. So I'm going to jump straight into it. So the first one is, let's just get that slide back up. TM1 Web. Okay, so for those of you that have your users not in the office, right now our preferred method with you is to use a thin client, Terminal Services or Citrix, and guys are remoting in, which gives the full rich capability of the Excel perspectives, which allows you to hop into the cubes, allows you to write rules, write your own reports using Excel with that direct link, the DBRW as we've come to know over the years and stuff. But with the TM1 Web, it allows you a huge amount of that same functionality without a thin client requirement. So you could literally, in a browser, go to a website. Obviously, you would need to publish that URL, that address, and make that server available from the outside. But you'd be able to log into it, and then people would be able to do a few things in it, and I'll show you now. It doesn't have all the functionality, so there are going to be instances where you still would prefer the Citrix or the Terminal Services thin client. So that'll be the first one that I'll take us through now. So I'll just hop into that. And for those of you that are making notes, I think you would have received the booklet. The general vibe from IBM is if you're going to use a web browser, the best web browser is Firefox, and then from there really it's obviously Internet Explorer is possible, although that's coming to end of life, and then Chrome is also possible, but in the main we try to use Firefox. I've got one thing in Firefox that I'm showing you today that isn't as responsive as Internet Explorer, but for everything else it seems to be a lot more stable, so I'll talk us through that. So literally the login screen would look pretty much like this. And maybe just to highlight one thing, which Lorraine will touch on later, but this gives you a mental picture. Most of you, when you log in at the moment, you've got the CXMD. If you're the IBM Cognos Express version. If you're a full-blown TM1 and you were that from the beginning, yours probably is your company name or something else a little bit more descriptive. But CXMD was the Cognos Express requirement. And so the upgrade, one of the benefits is you can have multiple models or server instances on this particular implementation. And Lorraine might clarify the difference between a model instance, server instance, and a physical server instance. This is really like your CXMD becomes one. You can have another one for something unrelated, and there's certain value in terms of management of different models, easier to do maintenance, and some other reasons to do it as well. So that gives you that capability, but I'm going to be working just on the one today. And you can, for those of you that are upgrading, in the upgrade we've historically, in the main, as a client base, you've been using the IBM Cognos Express CAM, like username and password controls. You can integrate with Active Directory, or you can use what's called the TM1 native if you want to. So obviously if you do Active Directory, you just need to limit access to the system to comply with your licenses, but that capability is there. So in TM1 Web, you'll see that those application folders at the top are very much the application folders that you have when you log into Server Explorer. That's normally where you've put your shortcuts for Q views and Excel reports, etc. Then further down under views, you've got all of your different cubes that you've got permission to access. And again, just quickly, if you log into this, because for a lot of you it'll be active in the background at the office already, if you log in and you get that, don't think that it hasn't installed properly, which the first time I saw that, I reinstalled the software actually, thought it was a bug, and then I saw this little triangle over here which brings it out. So, but once you're in here, you can do a few things. The first thing is you can scroll down any one of your cubes. So if I go down into sales budget, for example, you'll see all my views that I've been given permission to are there. And if I click on a particular cube, it gives me the ability to see. And if I just now hide that away, it's a little bit like, well, it's a cube view, gives you this but a slightly prettier view than the cube viewer. So you can drill down and shows you your accounts, etc. So you will be able to, like in the cube viewer, do your budgeting straight in here. So you don't have to build an Excel sheet to budget. You can budget in here, and I'll touch a bit more on that later. But you've got some great capabilities. The user interface is quite friendly. If you want to swap out divisions and customer, much like you would in a cube viewer, but again, it's slightly more user-friendly in my opinion, and it works quite nicely. So that's the ability to open any of your views. The other thing that's really quite nice, and I've started enjoying a little bit myself, is the ability to actually start looking at Excel, the report you've written in Excel. So I'll give you an example. So this is a slice report that's been written in Excel, and the drop downs are interactive just like you would see, and so you can choose a particular leaf level or lowest level, and it'll update your Excel objects dynamically. You can even include some graphing on the side here. I know that pie chart's not the best practice graph, but it was the client's implementation, so we just using these, just so you know, they have given us permission to use their model, change the numbers obviously. So a lot of your Excel objects work in here, which is quite nice. And if I went back into this example here, you'll see as I make the change, the underlying report will update much like you used to. Now, in addition to that, you might have created some Excel-based lists, so using that data validation feature within Excel. And those are also available, and they also work inside of here. So So you can change, and as you change, you'll see the one difference that I found is that it highlights the change, but until I hit the refresh button in this case, it doesn't update the numbers. So where it's a direct dimension integration, it will auto-refresh, and where it's an Excel list, you've got to often hit the refresh button. You might be able to write some like stuff within the Excel workbook that forces an auto-refresh, but in this particular example, it auto-refreshes in Excel for me, but not in the browser. Okay, and so that gives you an indication. I'll do one more. I'll just see if I can open up a. So this one will probably be a little bit slow. Let's see. It's not that one. Okay. Okay. So this will take a little bit of time to run. So this is what we call an active form, which most of you are probably familiar with, but it gives you again a similar experience to that QViewer environment. And then if I just jump into, let's say, a particular area, and I overtype this, and mind you, obviously you need security set up, but at the moment on my demo I haven't. If I overtype it, then it's going to do a proportional spread down for me. It's going to show me what's going to update that for me. So you can do your top-down budgeting, and obviously bottom-up you can go right down to a lowest customer and make that change. Okay, so that gives you a basic feel. You can build in action buttons. I don't know if you've used action buttons. Those are just, they look like Excel macro buttons, but they're not. They actually IBM buttons, and you can link processes to that. So that would be to do a fresh import or a copy version or create a new product or whatever. You can actually access them from here. Like I said, there are a few things you can't do here. So if you're going to try and burst this to multiple reports, so I'll use that as an example. So if I go here and I say, let's see here. Okay, I don't see my icon anymore. Oh, here we go. Export to Excel. So if you did a slice in Excel, it would automatically run through a wizard and allow you to go through. But if I said, in fact, let me choose this book, it's probably better. So if I go export to Excel, and I say I want to do it based on month, that's going to give 26 sheets. I hit OK. It's going to actually now run through and actually change through each of the months. So it'll be Jan, Feb, March, all months, year to dates, etc. And so you'll see what it's done in this instance. It's got a cheap one, April, May, June, July, auto build. I'm not logged into the Excel perspective, so that's why I'm getting the hash names. So that's the one thing that you can't do in web. You can't just keep going. Once you build that, it will push it out to Excel. You would need to then connect through the thick clients to access it. Okay, but great for on-the-fly analysis, and also for budget approval, etc. Okay, so that's the first one. That's TM1 Web. Okay, any questions on TM1 Web? Great. Okay. Yeah, go for it.
The Excel workbooks in there, is it saved on the server?
Saved on the server. It's a great question, Audrey. And then the other thing is that you might have created some Excel compatible workbooks. You know, if you go file, save as in Excel, and you choose with compatibility mode and then upload it, those ones that are in compatibility mode, when you click on it in web, doesn't open it because it needs to be on the XLSX or XLSM. You can't use XLS extension workbooks. It has to be XLSM or XLSX. And that's also something that's happened over the last, I'd say, about 2 years. You might remember you wouldn't be able to historically load up an XLSM book. So if you had a macro-enabled workbook, it wouldn't let you load it up to the server. You can now load it up to the server, and you can access them over the web or a client, which actually helps with it. Great.
And if you make changes then through the web, will it change the Excel workbook?
No, so
only for viewing?
Yeah, so any template design and updating and uploading, you need to use the thick client. You need to log into perspectives. Yeah, But as soon as you just want to consume it, you can work within there. Yeah. Cool. Great. Good question. Okay, so looking at workflow, I'm going to kind of do these all together and explain as we go along. So workflow is really something that TM1's had for a very long time, but very few customers actually use it. And it might have been partly because we've taken a while to get our head around it, and you've got to do a lot more in terms of security. But the idea of workflow is what it says, the ability for one person to capture a budget and to submit it to somebody else who can then take over it and either reject it, review it, or approve it. So it gives you that ability, and you can, you don't only have a one-level approval, you can have it that person A submits, person B reviews, person C commits it to the final version. So it gives you that capability. So just working through there. So again, you can use the web interface. So the nice thing is if you've got decentralized branch managers or businesses, you can get the guys to use the web interface. And obviously the idea is that you can then have an audit trail. So you can literally have a CFO who doesn't get involved in the process go and do a digital signature by hitting the final submit button, which is quite nice. You can do a combination of Q views and web sheets. So I'll give you an example of that. That basically means that the Excel workbooks, you can create user-friendly budget loading interfaces, or you can just use the Q views. And you can basically break your budget down according to your budget holder structure. There's a little bit of technicality on how to do that, and we would obviously, off the back of this session, run more technical how-tos that you can break it down. And then the key thing here is you need to imitate your approval structure in at least a dimension. And if that dimension doesn't exist, we have the ability for you to link that dimension into the budget approval environment. So that's workflow. I'm going to talk through that now, but welcome. At the same, are you here for SPSS or are you here for TM1?
TM1.
Great, you're in the right place. Great, thank you. Cognos Insights, I'll come back to it in a moment, is another interface. So for most of you, you're used to either TM1 Web, which I've shown you now, you're used to Perspectives, which is the Excel interface, or you're used to what's called the Q Viewer, and you're typing in there. Now, Cognos Insight is another little app front-end interface to the server, and it's got some capabilities. So I'll come back to that as we go. So let me pop in here, let me log out. So TM1 applications, I don't think any of our Express users in Cape Town are using this. Kelly, you guys don't use this, eh? Yeah, so I don't think anyone's using that. So what you have here is you've got the whole model sitting in Architect or Server Explorer as you used to, and then you basically, through a process, are exposing a portion of that model into a user-friendly collation of views. So to give you an example, at the top, sales budget, Cognos Insight, I'll hop into that just now. We've got the scorecard, which we'll do today. The test disconnected is just a very, very basic, small little view that I'm going to run through now for workflow. And then I'll hop back into the BMG general expenses model, or view, which has got the more extended real-world scenario. But I just really want to break it down to its essence to show you. So let me do that. I log in, I go into test disconnected. Okay, it's just a little view, and what I've done is I've literally created a tiny cube with a few dimensions, and I've broken it down into budget areas. And it's very an oversimplified example, but you'll see in here, when I click in here, it will tell me area 1 is sitting there, and if I click on that, you'll see area 1 is ready. I can hit the final button, it'll be submitted for review. You'll see that if I look here at area 2, you'll see that area 1 is locked, which basically means the budget holder, which in this case I can see here is Gavin P, has actually submitted that budget. further to the right will tell me when they committed. So you'll see that I was doing some practice before you guys got here today. And then I have the ability to comment. So if I click on here, you'll see I can leave a global comment for the person who's now reviewing my work. It could be like here, it's just a sample comment, but that could be, hey, I've spoken to Peter and Joseph, whatever it is, this is as best as we can get it, or whatever it is. That's at a level. That's normally cost center for most of our clients. You might do it at a legal entity level or a product category level, but general expenses, that's generally where we get to. And you'll see I've got all areas, area 1 and 2. If I log off here and I log on as Gavin P, you'll see that I have just the 2 areas that I'm allowed to use, and then you'll see that area 1 is curtained. So I'm only seeing the budget areas that I've got access to, which is quite nice. And then you'll see that I've locked this, or it's locked. I can hit reject myself, and then I can edit it again. But if I just want to go work in this one, I'm going to click on rent. It's going to open up Cognos Insight. First time you would have seen it. Cognos Insight is a nice little add-on within the TM1 offering to allow you to do some nice graphical interfaces and some analysis, and it also is the enabler for offline, which I'll get to a little bit later. So this is a very oversimplified example. Like I said, I've got one area. I can take ownership, so I'm basically at the point that I'm in charge now. At this point, it actually locks that piece, so even the administrator wouldn't be able to go and make changes. This is that like better control over who's got the ability to update. And you'll see that it's given me my 12 months across. I can draw to that level, which hides the year-to-date views, and then I can do normal data spreading. So I can say equal leaves, I can say whatever, 30,000, and it's going to push it out. And then obviously it's again oversimplified, but any line that changes will now change to blue. Show me that's, sorry, that's to tell me I've got 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go much faster. I don't know if I need to pick up the 15 minutes we lost up front, Lorraine, or if you can.
No, we're working on this one.
Okay, cool. Okay, then I've got a bit longer than that. Okay, so once I'm happy with what I've got, I can hit submit. At that point in time, it is, or commit, that banks it into my version, and then when I'm ready, I can submit it. And then I submit, it'll lock the data, I say yes. At that point, you'll see it's grayed out. And if I go back to my, my summary, I get a better understanding where I'm at. And I can go into here and I can add again a comment at a higher level. So, and I can say that, and it becomes a little bit like a Twitter feed or a Facebook feed where you can just keep adding those comments. So now if I log off and I log on as administrator, I can go into that. I can move into area 2. I can look at rents. I can, in this case, I could reject it. So I could reject it. And then I can go in and maybe I want to add a comment, but not at a global level. Maybe I want to add a comment at a line item level. So again, I could just do that if I wanted to, and I could maybe go into here. I can take ownership. I can right click. I can add a comment, and you'll see that as soon as I add a comment, there are these little triangles. So once I reject it, so at this stage, I can submit that, or I could close that, and then if I release that, it now becomes available for Gavin to do the next cycle. And then Gavin logs in, he gets the comments, he carries on. So it's really quite nice, but you obviously are required to have a user license. At the end of it all, I can obviously go do a massive submit into mine, and then there's somebody that's holding all of those rights, and they get access to all of them. So that's workflow. Any questions on workflow? Lorraine, you want to say something? Good. Cool. Okay, so I think that it's quite practical. Within the Cape Town context, we've got a lot of guys who are doing it in basic Excel spreadsheets who are then importing it into TM1 using DBS or other ways. But at that point, there's a user that's in charge of the numbers, and they're normally getting someone else to approve it. So my recommendation is that you could still do that first bit in Excel. Obviously, perfect world over time, cost benefits, whatever, you'll start migrating your power users over to the technology because it's more controlled now. But in the meantime, at FM level, into group FM, into FD, at least you can have that bit audit trail, which I think is quite nice. Okay, so that's workflow. I'll just quickly take a moment and just show you what a normal real-world example would look like. So you would normally load it up. This one's going to take a little bit longer to load. And you'll see it's going to be able to give you an income statement summary, whichever objects you choose to bring in here, whether they're cube views or cube views or slices. So if I click on there, you'll see I've got the individual line items, quite similar to what I've had in the earlier view, but it's at this level. And the important thing is the level that I've got permission until it'll auto filter this, so you don't have to set up spreadsheets for each different budget holder. It will auto limit them to the hierarchy that they've been given rights for. Okay, so this connected and disconnected, I didn't actually show you that, but I'll just quickly hop to a screen share. Just hold on here. Okay, so you'll see over here, if you look at the top there, it says Cognos Insight Distributed, and then at the top right, Cognos Insight Distributed Offline, and you're literally just checking this offline button to enable it. So it gives you that flexibility to take a piece of work offline. So let's just jump back. Okay, so let me talk about Cafe. Cafe is the new preferred future for perspectives. So over time, we'll be moving towards Cafe. It's not ready yet in terms of the guys that are extensively using perspectives because of a lot of what we do. The version I've got on my computer today doesn't support these DVRWs, but the fix pack, which I'll install after today, just didn't want to take any chances, actually allows that, and Sunetta Joburg lady's got it working on hers and it works well. That basically means that when you log into Cafe, you can use any of the reports that you've pre-built, but you'll see that there are a few things. You can, limitation-wise, you can only see one cube at a time, which is a little bit difficult for us in terms of how we've deployed it. But you can do the full write back. You can access turbo integrated processes, and your cost tab and flex views. I'll take you through what that looks like now. But at this stage, no active forms. But IBM is investing heavily into this area, and they've tried to simplify the interface. So I'll take you through it. I quite like it. I haven't spent too much time on it, but the little bit that I have, I'm excited for the future. So the idea is that you would open the area that you want to work in. So these will be your different areas in the model. You'd again, same login would apply, and then you'll have the same views. So if I click on the sales budget cube and I take you into a view, I will be able to take a blank workbook, take like an example Cafe view and drag it in, and it's basically going to render your cube view into Excel, which is quite nice. It's going to give you an indication of where the flex view is. I must be honest, the flex view side for me, it's a little bit like a slice in many ways. So that is quite nice. And then the cross tab is really nice. So I think this is something you can't do in perspective. So if you want to do some on-the-fly analysis, you might actually prefer this. And on this, what you basically do is you could go to a different area. So I might say I want to pull the forecast here into context. Context is just like your filters. I could pull the months, so I could pull all months across the columns, and I can right click on a field, sorry, not right click on a field, I think I'm going to edit the chair, so I can edit the set, I can highlight the areas that I want to keep, so maybe I want to do an analysis or a spa, so I can choose the different aliases, and then it'll update, and then I could maybe just drop in here customers again as a context, so I could pull in all customers as context, and then maybe I'll just put on description, and I'll maybe choose South Africa as my sample set, and then I could pull in division as my rows. So it lets you do that on the fly, and then if I want to add in the aliases, we'll put in the description. So this you can't currently do in active forms or perspectives, and I think that's quite nice. I don't know what you guys think. Do you think you guys would use that? It's really, for those of you that like dumping it out and then doing pivot tables on top of it, this is nice because you're eliminating the data break, but you're keeping the flexibility as you go along. I haven't played with the calculations, so I can't speak around that, but it looks like there's some capabilities around calculations. Okay, so that's Cafe, watch the space. It's going to get better at every iteration.
Sorry, Alan.
Yeah.
So this is basically a reporting tool that will sit on top of the TM1.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. So I think some of your users will not use perspectives anymore. Some of your users are just running like some ad hoc reports against the cube, might just use Cafe.
Yeah, but if you have budgets or inputs, for instance, you'll still
you can input against it as well. So the end goal will be that your user base would only use this because it also integrates with the BI tool. So it could be one interface in Excel for both technologies. It's quite nice. It's heading there, but there are a few things that we can do at the moment in perspective still. It'll take a while, but I think it's cleaner. It's a little bit easier. The graphical view on the side, drag and drop gives more like a pivot table experience or BI experience. I think that an average user who hasn't seen perspectives before, if you gave them this apples for apples, they'd probably prefer this in terms of user friendliness. Just got to wait for some of the features to catch up. Okay, so moving now to the part that I'm growing my excitement on is that when we were going to do this event, we said, we'll just show them and tell them not to use it because it's not that great. But actually, as we've got our head around it, our excitement's really growing in it. So I'll just quickly hop into an example. And I must say a lot of it was through my ignorance that I wrote it off a bit early. But the idea is you can set up scorecards, you can set up different metrics, which I'll explain in a moment, and you can set up a sales metrics, you can set up maybe financial metrics, and then you can integrate. So this is one of the end goals that you get to. You get to a view that basically takes your whole business. Now a lot of you aren't holding this data in TM1 just yet, so, but the idea is you can build up a balanced scorecard. So for those of you that know balanced scorecard, know there's usually a financial, customer, internal process of learning and innovation. That's kind of industry standards. You can go Google, there's a whole lot on there. But the individual line items or boxes within the hierarchy, you actually get to define those. So under financial, we want to grow revenue, reduce cost sales, reduce expenses. It'll tell me how many objects are active within that area. So it'll tell me, and in that the little icon says that revenue is favorable, and the trend, the little triangles, it's going up. So revenue is going up, which is great. The other dials at the top continue as before. So that's the one end goal, and I think this the idea of a metrics cube is that you'll have, let's say, a sales cube, which has got everything that moves for you to be able to do your budgets. But at the end of the day, at an executive level, you're monitoring handful of things, 3 or 4 things, maybe gross profit percentage per product category, gross profit percentage per customer class, and so you only integrate those high level, management level like decision making points into this. So it's not like drill to your heart's content, get all lost in the details. It's really a quick way for you to say our strategic objectives for 2016 is this, how are we measuring against that? And they've done quite nicely integrating actual and target, which could be budget or forecast, and then showing trends. So that's the one view. The other view is that I could, bless you, I could change that to, sorry, that was balance scorecard. I could change that to impact diagram. So impact diagram, this is an area that I quite like. So the idea is you can, it's a fairly basic example, but we can see that gross profit is in the negative, so the square is negative, the trend is in the negative. We're seeing that sales is in the positive, it's a positive influencer, and it's actually done better than last month, and this is actually better than against target, and this is an increasing trend. And then all the dotted lines will tell you that this particular line item has a negative impact to the number. So again, I've taken a financial traditional view, but you could do this at a non-financial basis. So you could start to look at the impact of customer retention, salesperson. So you say what's the customer retention per salesperson, that kind of thing. You can work towards it. And then if you mouse over, it's going to give you a little bit more. What is the actual in your selection? What is the target? What is your tolerance you might set up? And the variance is 9.66. So a lot of in-screen like viewing. So that for me is like the kind of like the phase 2 of scorecarding, where you're going to build these two impact diagrams and balance scorecards. But I think the thing that you'll be able to implement relatively quickly and relatively cheaply is the ability to show per, so let me just do this here. Let's put that back in. So the ability to go per month and get a big picture view of how things are going. Just wait for that thing to catch up with me. Okay, and maybe I want to do here. Okay, so this will give me a very quick view per month, whether I'm in the green or in the red. So that's I'm exceeding budget or target or behind target. I can see the trend going up or down. I can actually see the numbers themselves, and you'll notice that that little 3 icon thing at the right basically says that I don't have a comparison in that particular site. So that's quite a nice view, and I've done it by item, but you could do it by cost center, and then you could go status by division. So this is just a management dashboard to see per division how we're going over time. So again, very quickly be able to get meaningful stuff. And I even think, like, if you look at total costs per cost center, are we in a favorable, unfavorable? So you can start to have a very single dashboard view of your organization's actual versus budget, total cost, one line, and then obviously you can go and dive deeper in the detailed cubes. And then the other nice thing is trend as well. So I can see what is the trend over time. So without having to do a lot of, in current TM1, export to Excel, create Excel charts, it really gives you a quick win capability to do some analysis up front. Okay, so that is scorecarding. Any questions on scorecarding?
No, go for a lot of the information you must sit in the list of your BI tool. Do you have to take it through to TM1 to get this view?
So
if you take that example, that is traditionally in our collab cubing, sort of for Cognos.
Yeah.
So do you have to take it through this layer to actually get to expose this?
Yeah. So you do have it does build the TM1 cube that runs all the calculations to give you the trends and all of that stuff. But you can use you guys on the TM1 full-blown, you can use the BI connector, so you can create a BI package, and you don't have to reinvent that package. We can use the package as a data source, but you will ultimately need to bring it into a cube, TM1 cube. Now you won't be using it in architecture. You would be using something called performance modeler and render it back to this. Okay. Any other questions on scorecarding? Great. Apparently in the US this is quite largely used. In SA we're still relatively new at it, but I think this quick win would be a good way to start. And I know that there's one of our customers already starting to use it in the last 6 weeks, so that's working well for them. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the TM1 stuff that I wanted to show today. I just want to quickly take 5 minutes, if I can, Lorraine, on the extending the reporting. So this is an initiative that we've done as Synergy. So IBM has released a product called Cognos Disclosure Management. It forms part of the Cognos suite. And the bulk of users are using it in South Africa, to my knowledge, for annual reporting, integrated reporting, and then board packs, etc. In this, what we've done as a Synergy level, we've actually put together an IFRS component. So we built an IFRS cube inside of TM1. So let me just go into here. So we built an IFRS cube in TM1, which allows for a mapping. So we built a mapping database, and you would basically be importing your trial balances into it. If you've already got all the subsidiaries inside the cube, inside a cube, we would just then pull the values from that particular cube into the IFRS cube. So I'll take you into that in a moment, but we've pre-authored a format. I'm going to just show you a sample today. So the actual report, or the cube itself, will have our I took you into the IFRS cube. You'll see that we've got a naming convention and a mapping structure, and all you'll do is you'll map your individual items to that hierarchy. We've got the same for like note detail that isn't held in your trial balance in another cube. So if you have a look there, we've got it extending to a lower level to handle additions, etc. And then what it looks like once you've done that is, I'll just quickly generate a report. So we integrate directly with TM1. You can also integrate with SQL Server, so you don't have to necessarily bring the data into TM1. So that being for you guys at Metropolitan, it's already residing in your data warehouse. So it'll automatically refresh when you hit the bulk refresh from both TM1 sources. You can use Excel workbooks if you don't have data sources on it, or you can use SQL. While that's running, I'll just show you this and then I'll take you back. So this is a very basic example. I've got integrated reports. I've just thrown in a few random numbers there, pulling from the database. But then effectively you can build your statement of financial position, you can build your detailed notes, and it's integrating Word and Excel objects. So if you think about your annual financials or integrated report, your director's report will be a good narrative within Word with the ability to pull in numbers. And then if you look at this report, that will probably be better handled in Excel. And literally, if you felt that these first few lines needed to be in Excel and the next few lines in Word, you can break it down. You don't have to take a whole area. And normally we break it down on formatting as well as on approval hierarchy. So it's got a full hierarchical approval. So on the left here, you'll see some of the objects. So if I take you down to notes or statement of financial position, if I take you into the group, you'll see there's the group level. If I take you into company, there's the company level. It's pulling through from the different data sources through here, and then renders a final version into the Word. So if I was to do a change as my last thing, and then I'll hand over to Lorraine. If I was to go into, let's say, Director's Report, and I wanted to make a change, I could check it out. I could then go in here, additional disclosure item. I can then go and link the variable, and let me just do a search here for cost. And I could say group cost, and you'll see it does this hashtag vibe a little bit like Twitter, just telling me it's going to be putting the group PPE cost into that value. I can then sign that back in or check it back in, and once I've done that and I run the report, it'll generate it for me, and again I'll just choose group to remain consistent, save as a snapshot. Every snapshot that I create I can call back at any time I like, and what I'm going to show you when this is done, the other thing that I could do is I could do a comparison between the two. So if you think about your steps in your integrated reports and your board packs, it really enables you to go into here and say, I want to compare these two examples. It'll run for me, and it's going to bring it together. So I'll just run my eye down, and you'll see there's the additional stuff. So very easily with auditors, with directors, all of that, you're very going to quickly be able to see what's changed. So there's a whole lot to this thing that we can unpack, and if you are interested in this, it's probably easier for me to come and do like an hour demo with you at your offices. But just so you know, we're integrating that last bit where you don't have to paste into a Word document for your auditors anymore. You could actually go the whole annual financial statements, but it goes wider than that. Interim reports, interim results, board pack, etc. Okay, that's my time definitely up from a technology point of view. Sorry, Lorraine, I took probably a little bit longer than I should have. Cool. Any questions as Lorraine walks up? Great. What's the general thought? Like, maybe get a finger scale. Like, okay, Lawrence is happy. Yay. Cool. Happy at the back as well. Cool. Thank you very much, guys. Obviously, yeah, your question.
Sorry, about the web part in the beginning, how integratable is that to SharePoint? To maybe publish reports on SharePoint from a central point of view to different departments?
I'm not a SharePoint guru, but I would imagine if you can, I don't know.
I know in SharePoint you can pull in certain web parts and those kind of things.
I think, let me get back to you on that, unless you know the answer, Lorraine. I don't know integration with SharePoint. I was going to say if you can iframe it into a SharePoint area, then iframe is just this embedded URL. I'm sure that's possible, but in terms of whether it's supported by IBM or not, I don't know yet. I need to check. I haven't asked that question. Cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. I hope it was helpful.
So I always get the fun stuff and just to talk to you about licensing. So you guys can say we're not interested, we want to start lunch early, and then I'm going to say we're all happy. Okay. So because most of you guys are in the rooms on Cognos Express, I'm not going to go into TM1 too much. So if you want to have an offline discussion about TM1, we can do that during the lunch. Okay. But essentially, why is it? Okay. So let me just jump to this one. So in Cognos Express, essentially we've got three different very independent products. Okay, and I'm specifically touching on those. So we've got Cognos Express, which is the bit that you guys are all using. So you either use Cognos Express Performance Management or you use Cognos Express BI or a combination of the two. We do then also have Cognos Express Controller, which is our mid-market financial consolidation solution. And what Alan touched on is the disclosure management component for the automation of the last mile of reporting. So what IBM's done is they said, well, because you've got Cognos Express, which is mid-market, it's got all of the enterprise capability, but it's really priced nicely, they're bringing in the other products into that stack as well. So there's not a big jump for you to go from where you are from Cognos Express into the other solutions. Okay. We are, however, only going to talk about Cognos Express BI and PM in terms of licensing, and the other two products will be included in the slide deck, which we'll email out to you guys afterwards. So let's talk about what you've got. You've got your connector. So the connector would either be PM for performance management, BI for BI, or if you have something that's just called a connector, that means you have a combination thereof. So if you want to follow, when you go to your booklets, just after the Cognos Express section, it's got your licensing information in there, so you can kind of follow in terms of what I'm telling you guys right now. So your minimum licensing requirements that you've got is you either need to have a connector or an administrator. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 2 seconds to catch up, just on the pages so that I don't run ahead of you. It should be, I think, around about page 8, 9, 10, right about there. So it's controller, CDM, TM1, and then Cognos Express in terms of the follow of the pages. Okay, everybody ready? Happy? Can I carry on? Okay. So then you've got, in total, there's 100 users that's allowed in Cognos Express. So if you start growing over 100 users, then we migrate you into the enterprise component. But whilst I say you have 100 users across BI and PM, you only have 50 users on the PM side. So only 50 budgeting users can use the solution. When you go to 51, even if you're below 100, we'll take you into TM1. Okay, so then we'll take you out of Cognos Express. So basically, we have an install connector, your administrator, and then your role-based license. Now, what have changed? In the past, we called that an install connector. So we really didn't care how big the hardware was that you installed it on. You can go and put it onto a 16-core environment or a 32-core environment. We really, really didn't care. With the latest version, IBM changed it. And this is where you guys might want to make a note and go back to your IT guys. From the last version, when you upgrade to the latest version, what they say is they say, actually, we do care how big the machine is that you're running it on. So they've assigned certain PVU points towards your hardware box, and it says you have a 1600 PVU limitation on your server install environment. So if your machine is, for example, a 70 PVU box, so a combination of your processor, the count of the processor counts to 70 PVUs, then you can potentially go up to like a 22, 23 core environment in Cognos Express. If it's 100 points, then you can go to a 16 core environment. So it's still pretty big. I mean, it's massive. We don't have TM1 clients running on a 16 core environment anyway. What this says, however, is if your physical box is less than 1600 PVUs, that means we don't have to manage it. So we don't have to install the tracking environment to say, let's go and count the points. But if you run on a virtualized environment and the physical box is bigger than 1600 PVUs, then we need to install an extra little bit of software. It's an IBM licensing software, and it basically just helps us track to say you're using up to the maximum of the 1600 or less. So it's just if that physical box is bigger. So I don't expect you guys to remember it, but when you get back to the office, just chat to your IT guys and let them talk to us, to Alan, just so that we like to kind of double check that stuff and make sure we're okay, because IT tends to upgrade us and do all kinds of stuff, and before we know it, we're in trouble from a licensing environment. Okay. Everybody happy with that? Okay. So, here's the interesting thing. Okay, so none of you guys have got Express Consumer licenses. Okay, so that's a license that can only read information on the TM1 environment, so on the performance management environment that you've got. Most of you guys have got performance management users on this side, and there's going to be 2 of you guys who's got a combination of PM and BI users. Okay, so if you have a BI user, they can only read information from the BI portal. but they can read information off the TM1 queue. Whereas if you have a PM user, this is the guy that writes data back, so this is your planning person. Then you have an express user, which means one person can do both things. So it's not an either or. So if you give me an express user, it means I can get BI dashboards, all of the really nice information that Jill's going to be talking to us in BI a little bit later on. I can get all of that visualization on my data, as well as I can write information back into the environment. Okay. And then obviously you've got your administrator. So whether your administrator was purchased with BI or purchased with PM, the administrator works across the two environments. We don't differentiate between the administrator. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys 2 seconds to take that in and make sure that you're comfortable before we move on. And please stop if sometimes we think it's we're comfortable with that, so please stop us if you guys have got any questions. Happy? So, there's this big concern. So you've now bought Cognos Express, you outgrown it, and suddenly you need to go into the TM1 environment or in the Cognos BI environment. So essentially one of the nice things is there is a trade-up path in terms of whether you're on performance management or BI, anything that you've invested in that mid-market environment, when you trade up, you get something back for that. So, for example, if you bought performance management and you've gone out of PM, you've grown to 50 users, I know a lot of you guys will go, well, you know, we know we're close, but I just need to tell you guys. So if you grow, if you want to say, I really like this offline capability, I want to be able to get a lot of people in my branches to go and submit data in, so they can take their data, they can do offline, they can go and do their analysis, come back and push it back into the server, and you want to, and you eventually go over that 50 user, it means that your users, you paid for them from a mid-market pricing. So when we take you into enterprise, you just pay for the server. All of your Cognos Express users automatically has access into the TM1 environment. Similarly with if you have BI and you've outgrown that, all of the users that you've paid for on the BI pricing automatically get access into the enterprise environment when we trade you up, so when you buy the BI administrator, for example. Okay, so let's quickly have a look at what those different options are. So this is what I explained to you guys. If I bought my people here, when I upgrade into the enterprise deployment, my users have got access, so I'm not going to go pay more for my users. I'm just going to buy rights into the enterprise server environments that I need to use. Okay. So your options. Your PM connector, for example, here, that server install for your PDUs, that automatically goes into the TM1 server and they give you a credit for 200 PDUs. Okay? Then your 50 users here, those 50 users automatically has access into TM1. So it's not like we're charging you more or anything, so you've got the comfort, and the messaging that I want to get you here is you've got the comfort that what you spend today is not going to be lost when you eventually grow into that enterprise environment. Okay. So we can really start embracing this exciting stuff that Alan is showing us around offline capability and being able to put stuff on the mobile and being able to use the web environment. And then for the BI guys on the Cognos Express side, and I actually meant to ask who's got BI before we started, but so for the BI, again your BI connector, because Cognos Express BI doesn't have a server, your BI connector becomes your BI administrator in the enterprise environment. Okay. Then your 99 BI users that you had here will go into your BI users in the enterprise environment. So we won't go and tell you to go and repurchase those licenses, and they become the analytics users in the BI environment. And then you don't need that admin because that connector is already converted into an admin license fee. Okay, so Cognos Express licensing is really, really easy. Very easy. Okay, but basically the idea is that when you look at what you've got, I would have touched on each of you guys in terms of your licensing configuration that you've got. So if there is any questions, pull either me or Alan aside and just say to us, I just want to understand this a little bit better. Okay. So something that I'm going to give you guys in your handouts, and we're going to be emailing it to you afterwards, is essentially this. So all that this says is, in each of these components that Alan took you through now, so